Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the webinar that is hosted by IBPW. IBPW, if you don't know, it stands for Indian Business and Professional Women. It was founded in 1994 to help women to mentor women to get into achieve their professional milestones. So it's basically a mentoring group. And for the past 16 years, IBPW is hosting book discussions in affiliation with Silicon Valley Reads. Silicon Valley Reads is an event organized by Santa Clara County Office of Education, the Santa Clara County Library, and San Jose Public Library Foundation. The events are designed to promote reading and literacy, broaden exposure to and appreciation to good literature, and build a sense of strong community. We at IBPW are hosting one of these events here today and have been a proud co-sponsor of this program for the past 16 years. COVID-19 has upended the world at the beginning of 2020, and the life we knew has forever changed. And as we are adjusting to the changes, we are valuing more than ever our relationships, our connections with each other, and with things that provide comfort, giving us a sense of security in a world of sometimes that feels out of control. For 2021, Silicon Valley Reads has chosen a variety of books centered on the theme of connecting, the universal human ability to build resilience by looking for people, places, and things that provide comfort and joy during tough times. Each book they have chosen approaches the concept of connecting from a different vantage point, such as nature, music, food, animals. Today, we will be discussing the children's book chosen by Silicon Valley Reads. The book is called Parker Looks Up, and it's written by Parker Curry and Jessica Curry, a daughter-mother duo. Here, they discuss connecting through role models and being comfortable in your own skin. This is the story of Parker Curry. She's a 4-year-old girl. And like any 4-year-old girl, she has interest in playing and dancing, other things. And one day, on a rainy day, she and her mother and sister and her friends, they go to, in Washington, D.C., National Portrait Gallery. And there she'll be jumping around and walking around, and suddenly she is like spellbound when she sees the life-size portrait of Michelle Obama. She's so amazed when she sees that portrait because she can connect with that portrait. She sees her mother, her grandmother, herself, her sister, everybody in that portrait. And then Michelle Obama has become a role model to her right this minute. And then that point, Parker Curry realizes that she can achieve anything she wants. She can be a doctor, she can be an astronaut, she can be a painter. So that's the power of role models. And this is exactly what IBPW also stands for. This is helping people through role models and mentorship of helping women into the professional world. So today, I'm very thrilled to introduce two of our panelists. Both of them are children book authors, and they have published children books. And it'll be so interesting to understand their thought process with Parker Curry Looks Up book in the backdrop. Let me introduce them to you individually. Shobha Tharu Srinivasan is a children's author. She's a poet, translator, editor, voiceover talent. She also has worked in a nonprofit organization to help disabled people by advocating and fundraising. She has done voiceover work, documentaries, educational programs, journalistic initiatives, and audiobooks. She has published quite a few children's books. The Names, A Pie Surprise and Other Stories, An Autobiography of a Tree, In the Alphabet, How Many Lines in a Limerick, and her essays and reviews have been published in India Currents and Scroll India. She's also working on a new book, which will be released in April 2021. Welcome to the panel, Shobha.
Thank you very much, Shaila. It's a pleasure.
Second panelist is Pinky Mukhi. She lives in South San Francisco Bay Area, and she has her own business for providing accounting and systems implementation services. She's a mom of an 11-year-old boy, Param. She loves to work with children, teaching them Gujarati language, as well as engaging them with stories and arts and crafts related to festivities celebrated by different cultures. She loves to explore nature and other places with Param and her husband, Sheetal. She has two children's books to her credit. We are one, and I'm grateful. And she has written these books in partnership with her son, Param. Welcome to the panel, Pinky.
Thanks, Shaila.
So today we will try to understand. I want to ask you a few questions, both of you, to understand how do you think, how do you write your books, and how are you connected in a way? Are you similar or dissimilar to the books that we are discussing today? So Shobha, let me start with you. You have written quite a few books. How are your books either similar or not similar to Parker looks up? Can you tell me?
So that's an interesting question, and I have written a number of books. They all deal with global connections. So we're looking at connection in a slightly different way. Um, the most recent two books I've written, one is Indie Alphabet, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I don't think there's an opportunity to talk about all of the books. Indie Alphabet was written with the idea of introducing the variety of our subcontinent to Indian American children, but not only to them, also to their classmates who are familiar with other Indian Americans in their classroom. So the idea is that, children brought up in this country who have parents or grandparents who come from India will have an opportunity to see themselves in this book, the way Parker looks up and sees herself in Michelle's face or sees her mother and grandmother. And also, if your child, an Indian American child, has a classmate in the room with them in school, they will, by reading this book, get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about a culture that someone else comes from. So the notion of this book was to bring that kind of global connectedness. With some of my other books, I've talked about subjects which again show the universal impulses that are true to all of us, that bring us all together in different ways. And I think in the Silicon Valley, it's a wonderful example of a beautiful book. This place is so much of a cosmopolis, where there's so much diversity, so many different cultures here. There's an opportunity for all of us to engage in different foods and festivals and all of that. So I like the idea of global connectedness.
So kind of a geographical connection too, with bringing
That's
in
right.
yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting. Pinky, how are your books similar or not similar to Parker looks up?
Both of my books are actually dealing with diversity, and so there is a connection. And this book, I am grateful, which is the most recent book, is about children of the world and what they feel grateful about in their daily lives. And at the end, you can see that they all feel grateful about the same things, which all of human beings really want in their life: love, family, and the importance of learning mother nature, and all those things. So it shows that even though we have different cultures, we live in different continents and countries, but all of us as human beings want similar things in life, and we are grateful for the similar things in life. And the first book, We Are One, also deals with diversity, in the sense that three children from different cultures, they are friends, and one of them is struggling with his differences, and they through their emotional journey, all the kids find that they all have some similarities and they all have some differences, but in the end they feel that they are connected by one thing, which is love, even though they are different in many ways.
Excellent. So it's kind of a familial connection here.
Yeah,
So I can say that both of you are right, have very similar to Parker, where you're bringing some connection,
yeah.
little different. Very good, excellent. So Pinky, let me ask you this. So Parker looks up is about connecting through role models. So that one can be comfortable in one's own skin. So you will see a role model and you say, I can see me in that role model, right? And you kind of emulate. Just tell me a little bit about did you have a role model growing up, and did you bring any role models in your books? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically, my father studied in Gujarat Vidyapit, which was established by Gandhiji.
Oh,
So so Gandhiji was kind of my role model when I was growing up, and our family had was very much influenced by Gandhiji, and so I was brought up with those ideals. and that came into these two books, because it talks about unity in diversity, and he was my role model when I was growing up, and the same thing I felt when I was a child, that why people differentiate between each other based on religion, color, and different culture. I was at a loss to understand when I was a child, and when my son was struggling with differences, I started writing that book, and subconsciously that thing came into these books, to show that even though we are different in many ways, we are still one and connected to each other by love and emotions.
Very nice. Sure, but did you have a role model, and have you brought any role models in your book?
Well, I was thinking of Pinky's line that, we're all connected in different ways, and that's what keeps us together and sort of gives us the comfort. Uh, you know, comfort in your own skin, as you said, really comes from a sense of confidence. And we were raised in my home in India, and then when I came here, with that notion that all of us have some value in this world. My parents were Keralites who came from a rural environment, went to the big cities of, Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, and before that, London, and had to navigate those differences. And my father used to tell us, I remember this, you should be as comfortable eating with your fingers on a banana leaf as you are with a fork and knife on a plate. So, and the other piece that I had heard, which is equally important and I think so relevant to the Bay Area, is just like the bowls in a katori, the katoris in a thali, Indian thali, where each katori has its own individual taste, but the flavors of all of that together gives the thali its essence and it's the pleasure to the palate. All of us in the valley or in any part of the world, we all bring something to the table. So it's not about otherness, it's about us and togetherness. And that's the approach with which, I came. So, the role models were, my father, my mother, my brother, the people in my family who were able to navigate successfully in life. And of course, our children who were raised here were exposed both to, Little House on the Prairie and Amar Chatra Katha, to Tagore and, Tennyson. That is sort of my whole philosophy of living.
I loved your analogy of thali with different flavors, but everything is together makes what the meal is. That's awesome.
Well,
And
I confess that idea is not my own. It's
that's a
it's
role
my
model
brother's
coming.
idea, but
That's a role
it's a
model.
wonderful metaphor that I like to
I
use.
know when you said Amara Chitrakatha, my daughter, even today, she doesn't want to give up all the Amara Chitrakatha. She loves them.
Yeah.
So that's exactly how we bring, best of both worlds and in this country. This is awesome. Um, what was your favorite book growing up? Did you have any? And is there anything that?
So again, it seems like I do have a sort of a resounding theme throughout life. As a teenager in the summer months when we had longer breaks, we either went to Kerala, which is where my grandmother's home was, or I would spend the summers reading. And I do remember, honestly, I mean, I don't remember very much of when I was 5 or 6, which dates me, but in my, middle and high school years, I did spend summers reading literature of different cultures. I spent one whole summer reading Russian literature. I read one summer of Japanese literature. One summer I was reading translations in English because I couldn't read in other languages in India, but translations, of Assamese literature and Malayalam literature and Bengali literature and all of that. So the notion is that there's so many similarities, and Pinky alluded this to it too as well. We're all the same in so many different ways, and if you have time, there's a lovely little story. I always remember I came as an undergraduate, as a teenager to America, and my first Thanksgiving was in an Italian American's home. And it was a wonderful experience. They were loving and wonderful. And there was a grandfather living in that house. And what was so interesting to me, as an 18 or 19-year-old, is that the grandfather asked his granddaughter, who was my friend who had invited me, so I hear you have an Irish American boyfriend. What happened? Do they not have any Italian Americans in college? And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting that an older gentleman of a particular generation was interested in seeing, his granddaughter bringing home somebody that was familiar to him. And I was thinking, I can see that happening sometimes in India, right?
Yeah.
But I think we've all sort of grown beyond that, and we're seeing how wonderfully special it is that we all have a place at the table.
Yeah, that's true. So, Pinky, my next question is, I know you did mention that when your son had some difficulties. Can you elaborate what were his difficulties and how did you help him through that?
Yeah, so basically he's a very observant child, and he would observe right from the preschool time. He would just observe that his food was different from food of other kids in his class, and he would feel that we speak Gujarati at home in an Indian language, and he would say that only I am the one who speaks this language, and nobody else in my school speaks this language. And we would pray at home before going to sleep at night. So he would be like, am I the only one who prays? I don't know if my other friends also do that. So he had all these questions, and he would be like, my skin color is brown, and other kids have a different skin color. So he would observe all these differences, and sometimes he will feel shy to take Indian food in his lunch, even though he absolutely loves Indian food. He likes spicy and flavorful food. So even though he would love it, he would feel shy sometimes. So I started to give him other general American food, but then he wouldn't be happy eating that. And he would be like, it was too plain and all those things. And his preschool teacher was from Pakistan, so she tried to explain to him sometimes, and she would say, "Oh wow, you have brought paratha today," so he would feel like, okay, somebody knows my food, what it is, and he would feel comfortable. But then so preschool years passed, it was not a big issue. But when he went to elementary school, again the issue popped up, because his school had a lunch program, and they would serve lunch, and that lunch he would not like because it was too plain for his taste. And I would give him from home, but and he would like that food, but he would feel like he's the only one having different kind of food. And he would feel shy, and sometimes will try to hide the food, and all those things. So he was literally struggling with that, and I tried to help him by explaining to him that you like this food, so you should not feel shy about it. It's okay if other kids don't understand. You can try to explain to them. But he was too young to be that confident at that time. So I thought I'll try to help him, and we had a nighttime ritual. So I would tell him a story at night, and I try to put these things in a story and try to explain to him that there were a few different friends, and they were all different, but they really enjoyed together, playing together, and they loved each other. So he understood the concept, but he was like, it's a little bit boring for me. And that's where I realized that it is really difficult to write for a child, because it has to be fun. So I had to do like lots of different versions, by adding some fictional names and all those things, and then he would give me his feedback, whether he likes it or not, or whether he does not like it, and what he likes about it, what he does not like about it. So
Is that how
he
your
helped.
book started? That's
Yeah,
how.
that's how the book started. And during this entire journey, he felt comfortable about his food, and he was feeling confident. And that's when I realized that there would be many kids who would be going through some kind of challenge with differences. And somehow I feel that it's ignorance about each other's culture which leads to bullying at schools also, because they don't know about other
Great
kids.
point.
They are
Yeah.
different. They are different, and they feel like, oh, they are weird. They are strange, and that's when I thought that this book could be useful. And I discussed it with some of my friends, and they all liked the idea, and they said, yeah, it's a great concept. You should go ahead with it. And
So
that's how we did the book.
the book helped him get over his.
Helped him a lot. Yeah, and he told me several times during the journey, and after publishing the book, that mom, I'm really proud to be a Gujarati boy, and I'm really proud to be of Indian origin.
So
And one time he also told me that if somebody asks me in my class what I have brought in my lunch box, I'll show it to them and tell them what it is, and tell them that it's spicy. Do you want to try it out? So it gave him a lot of confidence.
that's
And
awesome. I
yeah,
like
so
Yeah, I liked one thing which you said, very true. Bullying, anything, all these things happen when we don't understand somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah,
As soon as you understand they're all similar somehow, then we start becoming more comfortable in our own skin, which is
yeah,
all this book is about and this discussion is about. So I guess we different ways of making kids feel that. That's
Exactly.
yeah, right. Or sometimes we have to look up to role models or something. That's awesome. That's excellent that it worked for you, and it makes so much sense. Now he's so much more confident. You're just like you said. That's a great job you did. So, Shobha, I wanted to ask you, I think you already said this. I always wonder that our kids growing up in this country, I
Mhm.
really think they're lucky because they have so many exposures. They have the background, the Indian culture that they always fall back upon because we are bringing it somehow, and they're exposed to this world. I think they're very fortunate. I just wanted to get your take on this. So, what do
Yeah,
you?
I think they're very fortunate. They are first of all, they're very fortunate if they grew up in the Bay Area, where we can celebrate Tet and Chinese New Year, and have children from all parts of the world, or whose parents are from all parts of the world, in their classroom, where they hear many languages, they get to try different foods. I felt that when I came to America years ago, that I was exposed to food that I'd never eaten before. So yes, and from that perspective, yes. I do think that, children today, though, there's a particular the kids, our children, meaning first generation Indians children, do have a little bit of the struggle of having to answer to our particular ambitions and needs, as well as to their own idea of self and what they want to accomplish. So that is the only little challenge that I see sometimes. And that's where sometimes the frictions or the difficulties can surface. Many of us who came abroad either for work or for study or because of marriage or other reasons, we lived our own lives the way we wish to live it. Indian children brought up in the valley or anywhere else, are living their lives the way they want to live it, but also the way their parents want them to live it. So, which is why there's such a lot of literature, in fact, books and memoirs and all kinds of interesting things from youngsters and older people who have written books based on those experiences of growing up with first generation parents. So I think, it's a blessing, and it can also be a challenge, but I think with every challenge there's so much to learn, and so in that sense it's a wonderful blessing.
And I think also as parents, we grow when we come here, when we see everything, we grow up too compared to,
Well, certainly,
yeah, because we need to make sure our kids are comfortable in their skin, and
right.
that skin is different. It's like they're seeing different things. I just thought of a very funny story. One time when a colleague of mine, a white Caucasian, his guy, his son was about to go to college, and he told me, "I've told my son I'm going to pay for his college only if he does engineering." And I looked at him. I said, "That doesn't sound like somebody like." I laughed so much because I'm kind of used to that kind of a thought process in India, right? Because
Right.
you want to go do engineer, you want a doctor and something. But if we come here and we don't even think like that anymore, we said, you
Well,
do.
that's because of opportunity, right? I mean, I think growing up in India, uh, the sort of job path was limited.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the older days, I mean, like my son, my husband once said, he says, yes, by 15, 16, we had to decide whether we were going to be a doctor or an engineer. And then depending on your particular academic prowess,
yes,
you chose one thing or another. But there are many more opportunities in India today as well, just as there are in other parts of the world. So
yeah.
people can, I mean, we have so many Indian children in film and writing and journalism and academics and lawyering and, all kinds of other
I
things,
know
which
the
is exciting. Yeah,
opportunities here. So I'm thinking also about the book, the role model, right?
right.
I mean, I think. Do you think our kids have? Do you think we and our children have now? Our children, do they have better or more role models to look up to
Do you
compared
mean
to us?
role models from the Indian community? Is that as an
No,
Indian American?
could be
Well,
right. It could be any
definitely.
a role
Well,
model.
in America today, there are very many famous Srinivasans, for instance, which happens to be my last name. I'm Shobha Tharoor Srinivasan. Tharoor is my maiden name. My husband's name is Srinivasan, and I did
It was
TV.
my maiden name too,
So,
Srinivasan. So
so there you are. And so, we have Hari Srinivasan in journalism.
yeah,
We have Srinivasans in who are well-known judges. We have, so there are more, and my mind's blanking out at the
Yeah.
moment. Similarly, if there could be more than one Anant. My son is Anant. Yes, he's run into friends who are called Anand, and sometimes Americans would get confused between the Anand and the Anant, and it's an opportunity to explain that they're two different names and two different words. But if you talk about Indian role models, we have Indians successful in politics, we have Indians successful just about everywhere. Biden's cabinet has a number of Indian
Exactly. And
Americans.
how about
So
Kamala Harris?
times are very different. Yes, of
Right.
course,
Right.
yes.
And I think what I'm saying is that I think when we came to this country, I came to study here just like you.
Hmm.
Right now, I think there are more role models because it's only increasing. It's becoming wider. So we have more people to look up to. Our kids and grandkids have more people to look up to and feel I can be that person. Like
Yeah, they can be
like
that person, but they can also be someone else. I mean,
like
they
the
they are Indian Americans, but they've been in America. They're born and raised here, and the whole exciting thing is they can be whoever they wish to be. And I think some of us were raised the same way in India too, right? So that's what allowed us the opportunity to go elsewhere.
right.
Uh,
All right, Pinky, I think you already kind of said that. Just what prompted you to write the book? You said that when your son was going through hardship, you started telling him stories. But when did you decide to publish it and make a book out of it? I mean, what prompted you to do that?
Yeah, so basically, I saw the utility of the book, and I felt that it will be useful to many other people, and especially children who might be going through similar emotions of feeling differences from others. And that's what inspired me to write the book, to publish the book basically. And after it was published, and we went for book reading to libraries and various schools, and some international festivals and all those things. There I came across lots of parents who narrated to me the stories of their children's struggles. Some of the school directors said, I wish this kind of book was there when my child was growing up. And different kids had different issues. And the most touching was when I came across some specially abled kids and their parents. Their parents really liked the book a lot, and one mother was specially, she just touched my heart. She said that my daughter is specially abled, and this book is going to help her so much, and I will read to her. And I never thought about it when I wrote the book, but that deeply touched my heart. And So basically, it did help lots of children
That's nice.
in many ways.
Because your book is not just talking about difference in eating habits or
Yeah,
something, but it's just talking about we could be different, but we
yeah.
are also similar. So
Yeah, it talks about like differences in food, skin color, size. Somebody's medium size, somebody's big, taller, somebody's a small size. So it talks about size. It talks about different likes and dislikes. So it and like different languages. So basically, it explains various kinds of differences which children can understand.
okay.
And uh, and uh, and I used to, when I used to go for book readings, I would, at the end, I'll ask the children some questions, and I'll ask them what did they like about the book, and what lesson they learned from the book. And it was very, very interesting. Even preschool children would come up with very beautiful answers, and they will say that we can still be friends even though my friend is very different from me. And uh, and uh, and some children will say that I can still love my friends even though he brings something different in his food, or he likes to play something different. So it was really interesting how kids could relate to the story, and they could understand the concept behind it.
I uh, For the audience, if you have any questions, please type it in the Q&A bubble. There is a question from the audience, and I'm going to read it. Does a role model have to look like you, especially have the same skin color? Parker book suggests that, but is that your opinion? Shobha, you want to answer that?
No, I think, I mean, just based on the conversations we've had, I've suggested that you can have role models that don't necessarily have to look like you.
Okay.
They're, you
Or
know,
not have the same name either.
and not have the same name either, or have the same skin coloring. You role models are people you can aspire towards because of some of their achievements or their thoughts or their actions. And so, no, my answer is that they don't have to look exactly like
Yeah,
you.
I
Yeah,
agree with you. But
yeah.
do you think there should be something connecting them? It doesn't
Well,
have
I
to
think
be,
I
yeah.
think children do like to see themselves reflected in the books that they read,
Yeah,
and I think that's why Parker Looks Up has done as well as it has.
yeah.
Or with Indie Alphabet, when I read the book aloud as well in community centers and schools, there were children who were so excited who said, "Oh, Etava, which is an unusual place." They said, "Oh, my grandfather is from there,"
Wow.
and they put up his hand and wanted to say that. So when you see when something resonates with you, it makes you feel comfortable and happy, and then everybody looks around and feels like they're proud. When I read the book in my granddaughter's kindergarten class, she was so excited to share me with the classroom and to
Wow.
share the book. "My grandmother is going to read this book to you." So we all want things that make us feel comfortable and loved and similar. But like in How Many Lines in a Limerick, for instance, there's a poem about mothering. And I described, because I want to always there's always a sort of pedagogical mindset in my head. I wanted to talk about the different kinds of costumes that women wear around the world. But I called the poem Mothering, and I described these different outfits. And then at the end of it all, it says, but mothers all have the same impulses to nurture and love and care, and that's what brings us all together. So I think my sort of writing is always bringing everybody back together to the same page.
That's excellent. This is perfect because that's what we are doing today. Connecting through somehow we are connecting. I love the way you talked about the mothering limerick. How
Yeah.
you brought that mothers are the same entire world, right? Because
Right.
that's
And all the poems and all the example poems in this poetry instructional book, I mean, it may be a book that teaches you how to write poetry and talks about literary forms, but the example poems are all. I describe houses. I mean, there's no time to read the poems aloud, but I could just tell you that, it describe different houses that different people live in, from an igloo to a tree house to a bungalow to a palace or a chalet,
wow.
and yet coming home to the house, it's still home to us,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
So it's
Like a mother is a mother wherever, and a house is a house wherever.
exactly. If
I,
there's love and there's you and me, then that's a house and a home.
Shoma, you mentioned granddaughter. So, being a grandmother, tell us a little bit about what
It's a
like all
particular, it's a wonderful
three
joy.
generations, right? It's already like three generations. You, your daughter, and your granddaughter.
Yes.
So, what do you do to connect her with that culture? I guess
So,
you're already reading.
my granddaughter's name is Mrinalini, which is a
Okay.
very beautiful Indian name, and she wears it with pride and very happily and pronounces it beautifully and makes sure that her friends know how to say it. And so that's great. She's been to India already twice or three times. She's been to India three times already in these 7 years. And she has been exposed to many Indian festivals, as well as she's been to Hanukkah or Christmas and other festivals that her father's side of the family comes from. So she sees herself as a very global citizen, and she thinks that she has a very special name.
Wow.
And, I unfortunately don't read and write my own mother tongue. And I speak a lot of English at home, but, I speak Malayalam, some words to her. I sing her lullabies in Malayalam. She loves doshas. When we get together, we eat Indian food. The children have grown up loving it, and she'll ask for it. And she says, "I am Indian American and this and that and this." And, it's very, very special. Yeah, yeah.
When you talked about your granddaughter's name, I thought of a story with my own son. His
Oh,
name is a little difficult. His name is Utsav, and we were in the East Coast, and he was the only Indian child in the entire school. So
oh.
one day he came home and he said, "Amma, I want to change my name to Bob." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because my friends can't say my name. It's so difficult." So that was my time to tell him, sit him down and say, "Yeah, I know it's difficult, but it's beautiful. It means this much. So
Exactly.
tell them about it. Tell them and teach them how to say your name. And he went back, and after that, he never gave me a
And
problem.
the children can always say the name so
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
those of us who come with our baggage, as they say, with our
Exactly.
luggage. When I did French classes, I remember the French teacher said, it's those of you who are older and know another language that have difficulty speaking a new language, because you're immediately assuming that you have to bring certain rules and syntax to understanding a language, whereas children don't. I mean, they don't know that necessarily a G followed by an I should sound a particular way or anything
Exactly.
else.
Exactly.
And
Also,
they're very comfortable saying any name, really.
that's true. But also, Coast is so different from East Coast. I'm sure East Coast is changing, but West Coast is like it's so comfortable here. I mean, we can see our culture right here. I think you mentioned your daughter learning dance, and my daughter learned dance. And, there's so much of assimilation of all cultures here, which is awesome. So we're almost coming to the end of it. Maybe I'll ask both of you to tell me what your future plans and what kind of books you're writing. And Pinky, you want to take a minute and explain your next project?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I have another project. It's about ideally I would like to try a chapter book out of it, but and it's a book about different virtues and how they overpower evil. And the concept just came one night when I was telling a story to my son, and he absolutely loved it. So I just wrote down the concept, but I have to develop in the chapter book format, and so I don't know when I would be able to do it. But when I have some more time, I plan to work upon that.
And you plan to include Param in your
Yeah,
next project?
yeah, he's good with creative writing. At his school, he's doing good. And my idea is if he writes it in very much detail, it will be great. But with school and everything, and plus he's a boy, so getting him to do something is quite a challenge now.
But you have a in-house editor that you can always tap into, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
sure.
And Shobha, what about you?
Gosh, I have quite a few books in the pipeline. I have a book on Raja Ravi Verma, the Indian poet, that's coming out in April, because, as I said, we all know Van Gogh and, Matisse and Monet. I thought it would be fun to sort of introduce and go back to some of these interesting other poets, other artists. So that's one book that's coming out soon. I have written a book about Parvati the elephant, which is a temple elephant in India. And it is an opportunity. It's going to be a picture book, hopefully with lovely illustrations that will give you some aspects about a very special elephant. I've written a book that I'm still looking for a publisher, and it's a book about trees, and I talk about trees as an example to essentially talk about the fact that we may all be different, but we bring a lot to the table. And so in a sense, it's an ecological book. It's sort of an environmental framework to talk about some of these values that we've talked about confidence, about the fact that, big and small is not a matter of size, but, our thoughts and our relevance to particular things. And that's called Sandalwood's Advice. And I talk
Wow.
about sandalwood, coconut tree, people tree. So there is an opportunity to talk about India in it, but it's also environment. It's also about self-confidence. So, some ideas like that.
Is there any age group that you usually focus on?
No, I always feel that the books really translate to many ages. I mean, if you look at Indie Alphabet, it was published as a children's picture book, and it's got large illustrations that look like children's illustrations for children. But I see, oops, I'm opening, can't really show it to you. But the thing is, it has literature in its poetry. It has geography in the maps and where you can see parts of India you travel to. It has history and culture at the bottom of the page where teachers or older children can look up further information. So when we talk about Howrah Bridge being busy, it's a cantilever bridge. Somebody can find out what is a cantilever bridge. So each book has many layers from which we can learn.
Okay.
So I think my books are sort of multi-tiered.
Excellent. Because I already know that I'm going to buy that book for my granddaughter.
I hope so. And I look forward to reading Pinky's books as well. Thank you.
Okay, we are at the end of our 40 minutes, and I had a wonderful time talking to both of you. You both are so
Pleasure.
accomplished, and you have all these nice projects ahead of you. I can't wait to read your new books.
Thank,
And thank you very much for your time today.
thank you.
It was an awesome,
Thank you,
awesome.
Shaila.
Thank you so much. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And I look forward to reading your books, Pinky.
same here. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.